told him I wasn't attracted to him anymore and he packed his things. Hello, Reddit. Long-time lurker on here, but this is my first ever time posting because I genuinely don't know what to do. I tried being honest, and it completely blew up in my face. I really don't know how to fix things anymore, and I need advice on how to make my husband realize that we can make things work. I refuse to believe that this is the end for us. A little about us. My name is Rebecca, and I'm 32 years old. My husband, let's call him Danny, is also 32. We've been married for 5 years, and we have a 4-year-old son together. He's an adorable little daddy's boy. And well, that's part of the problem. Danny has always been a great dad. I can't fault him there. He's patient, kind, and basically worships the ground our son walks on. But that's the thing. Ever since our son was born, it feels like all his attention and energy goes into being a father, and somehow I've been left behind. I guess I should say up front that I've always been the type of person who thrives on passion and excitement in a relationship. I love being the center of someone's attention, and I need that spark to feel happy. When Danny and I first got together, it was like a fairy tale. He couldn't keep his eyes or hands off me, and I loved it. We were happy. Things were amazing. But then everything just kind of changed after we had our son. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but sometimes I think parenthood steals more than just your sleep. It steals the spark, the passion, and the excitement that made you fall in love in the first place. Over the years, things changed. He's still sweet, sure, but sweet doesn't exactly set my heart racing anymore. He's gotten so boring, so predictable. It's like I'm living with a roommate instead of a husband. Honestly, sometimes I feel like an accessory to his life rather than a partner. Now, to give some context, Danny and I both work, but he works way more than I do. He's the main provider, paying the bills, the mortgage, and everything else. My income? That's more like my fun money. You know, for clothes, takeout, and little things I want. Because of this, I work fewer hours, which is great. It allows me to juggle work and motherhood. I know I'm lucky in that regard, but sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in this cycle of monotony while Danny gets to play the hero. I guess I didn't fully realize how done I was with everything until Phil came into the picture. Phil was a new coworker at my job, and we hit it off right away. He was funny, charming, and most importantly, he noticed me. I mean, it's not like I set out to develop feelings for him or anything, but I was bored in my marriage, and honestly, I didn't have many friends outside of Danny. So Phil and I became close quickly. We had so much in common. Similar interests, similar humor. It was easy to talk to him. And before I knew it, we were texting all the time. At first, it was innocent, just jokes, memes, and casual conversation. But the more we talked, the more I realized how much I craved the kind of attention Phil gave me. It wasn't like I was doing anything wrong. I wasn't cheating or sneaking around. I mean, is it really cheating to enjoy talking to someone who makes you feel alive again? I don't think so. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice how much more time I was spending on my phone, waiting for Phil's next text, compared to, say, spending time with Danny. And maybe that's where everything started to spiral. Because once I started seeing how exciting life could feel again, it became even more glaringly obvious how boring and stagnant my marriage had become. But what was I supposed to do? Ignore it? Pretend I was happy when I wasn't? I thought being honest with Danny was the right thing to do, but apparently, honesty was just the match that lit the fire. Honestly, I loved the kind of attention Phil gave me. It wasn't just the usual compliments or casual small talk. It was deeper than that. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't long before our conversations took a turn and we started flirting. And then we started talking about crossing the line. You know what I mean? The kind of talk that makes you think about doing things you know you probably shouldn't. It wasn't innocent anymore, but it also wasn't technically cheating yet. At least that's what I told myself at the time. But the more I talked to Phil, the more I realized how different things felt with him compared to Danny. With Phil, there was that spark, that chemistry, that raw attraction I hadn't felt in so long. I'd look at Danny and feel nothing. He was predictable, routine, and, dare I say it, boring. But Phil was exciting. He was new, he was fresh, and he made me feel like I was the most desirable woman on the planet. I wanted Phil. I wanted him so badly that it consumed me. I thought about it constantly. I fantasized about what it would be like to cross that line. I told myself that I could do it and still have everything I wanted. That I could have Phil while keeping the stability and security that Danny provided. I wasn't ready to give up the life I had built with Danny, but I also didn't want to ignore what I felt towards Phil. I justified it to myself a million different ways. I told myself it wasn't really my fault. Danny was the one who stopped making me feel wanted. He was the one who got boring, who poured all his energy into being a dad and forgot about me. Was it so wrong for me to seek happiness elsewhere when he clearly wasn't giving it to me? I didn't think so. So Phil and I started planning. There was a work trip coming up in a few months, and we decided that would be the perfect opportunity. We'd be paired with other coworkers, but we figured we could slip away, do what we wanted, and come back as if nothing had happened. It would be our little secret, just one time to get it out of our systems. But before I could act on anything with Phil, everything came crashing down. Danny caught on. I still don't know how he figured it out at first. I thought I was being careful, but apparently I wasn't careful enough. He went through my phone. I don't know if it was suspicion or just sheer bad luck on my part, but he found everything. He found the messages between Phil and me, the flirting, the suggestive comments, the plans we'd started making. Messages that went far beyond what anyone could reasonably call friendly. When he confronted me, I knew I was in trouble. Everything I had been trying to keep hidden was out in the open, and there was no talking my way out of it. It turned into one of the worst arguments we've ever had. He was furious, yelling about betrayal, disrespect, and how I destroyed the trust in our marriage. I couldn't believe the way he was acting. I mean, yes, I flirted. Yes, I said some things that maybe I shouldn't have, but it wasn't like I actually did anything. Nothing physical happened, and I made sure to hammer that point home again and again. But he wouldn't let it go. He kept saying it was cheating, calling me names, acting like I'd torn apart our entire relationship. I told him he was being ridiculous, blowing everything out of proportion. Flirting isn't cheating. Planning isn't cheating. It's not like I actually crossed the line. I thought that would be enough to calm him down, but he just kept coming at me like I'd committed the ultimate sin. So I snapped. I told him it was his fault. If anyone was to blame for the state of our marriage, it was him. I told him I wasn't attracted to him anymore, that he was boring, predictable, and completely uninspiring. I laid it all out there, how I felt neglected, how I missed feeling wanted, how there was no spark between us anymore. And then I said it. The thing I probably shouldn't have said but couldn't stop myself from saying because in that moment, I just wanted to hurt him back. I told him that Phil was everything he wasn't. Phil made me feel alive. Phil made me feel desirable. And honestly, I thought saying it would snap him out of whatever self-righteous rage he was in. I thought it would make him realize how much he had failed me as a husband, how far he'd fallen short of being the man I needed him to be. But instead of reacting the way I expected, yelling back, slamming a door, or even sulking, Danny just went quiet. It was unnerving, to be honest. He didn't yell, didn't argue, didn't even look at me. He just turned and walked out of the room. At first, I thought he was doing his usual dramatic walk-it-off routine, where he'd come back in a few minutes and we'd keep going. But when he came back, he had a duffel bag in his hand, and he started packing. I couldn't believe it. I actually laughed because I thought it was some sort of bluff, a stupid stunt to scare me into groveling or something. But then he went into our kids' room and started packing his things too. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just storming off to cool down. He was leaving. For real. I tried to stop him, of course. I told him he was being irrational, that he was throwing away our marriage over something that didn't even happen. I reminded him that nothing physical had happened with Phil, that it was all just talk. I even tried to shift the blame again, pointing out how he was the one who let our marriage get so dull in the first place. But he didn't care. He told me he'd pick up our son from daycare as usual, but that he'd be staying with him for a while. He said something about how he was always the more present parent anyway, which honestly felt like a low blow. And then he walked out. Just like that. I stood there, stunned. I mean, I didn't even get a chance to process it. One minute we were arguing, and the next, He was gone. I thought he'd come back. I thought he'd cool off, realize I was right, and come home so we could talk things through. That's how it's always been. No matter how bad things got, we always figured it out eventually. But this time, he didn't come back. He didn't call. He didn't text. He didn't even give me a chance to explain myself further. And now I'm sitting here trying to understand how everything fell apart so quickly, wondering if I pushed him too far this time. I mean, yes, I said some harsh things, but they weren't lies. And okay, maybe I shouldn't have let things with Phil go as far as they did, but the important thing is that I didn't actually do anything physical. It feels like Danny's overreacting, blowing this whole situation way out of proportion. I don't understand why he's acting like I burned our marriage to the ground. It's not like I cheated. Sure, I planned to, but plans aren't actions. How do I fix this? How do I make him realize that he's the one being irrational? I know deep down we can still make this work, but I need him to stop being so dramatic first. Update. Well, hello there. I knew posting on Reddit was a bad idea, but I did it anyway because I needed somewhere to vent. And what did I get for it? Nothing but judgment. I thought people would at least try to understand my side of things, but nope. Everyone just kept telling me I was the asshole, that I was at fault, that I destroyed my marriage. I get it, okay? I understand that I made mistakes. Whatever. I'm not here to play the victim. I'm just saying it's not entirely my fault. Danny overreacted, plain and simple. And yet every single one of you seems to think his reaction was perfectly justified. Some of you even said you would have been done with me the moment it happened. Really? Whatever. Anyway, I'm updating again because despite all the hate, I still need a place to vent. Especially now that everything has turned to complete shit. Honestly, I don't even know what to do anymore. And fine. Maybe I'm starting to realize that things are worse than I thought. Maybe this is all my fault. Kind of. Not really. Okay, but maybe. Danny is still acting like I burned our entire marriage to the ground. Like I cheated on him or something. I keep trying to explain that flirting and planning aren't the same as doing. Plans are just plans. But he won't listen. He keeps saying he wants a divorce. He's so serious about it that it's actually scaring me now. He's even talking about wanting custody of our son, which is just plain insane. I mean, I don't want a divorce. I want us to stay married. I want to fix things. I don't even understand why he's doing this to us. I've tried my best to talk to him, but every conversation ends the same way, with him saying he wants a divorce. It's infuriating. I've told him over and over that I don't want a divorce, but he doesn't seem to care. He just keeps pushing for it. It's like he's completely checked out of the marriage. It's annoying, especially now that there is a lot going on and I need to focus on myself right now. And I also need Danny more than ever. I need his support. And instead of being there for me, he's acting dramatic and ruining everything. Oh, and there's more. I forgot to mention this in my original post, but Phil is married. Yeah, I know, not great. Apparently someone reported us to his wife who, get this, was the one who helped him get his job in the first place through nepotism. So as you can imagine, all hell broke loose. Phil either quit or got fired. I don't actually know which because nobody will talk to me about it. It's like I've become some sort of pariah at work. Everyone is avoiding me like I have the plague. And now HR wants to meet with me in 2 weeks. I'm terrified. My workplace has a strict no romance policy, and while it technically doesn't apply to relationships outside of work hours, Phil and I didn't exactly keep everything off the clock. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what this meeting is about, and I have no idea how to handle it. I need Danny now more than ever, but he's being so damn dramatic about everything. I've tried telling him how much I miss him, how sorry I am if the whole Phil thing made him uncomfortable or seemed like cheating. I've even said I'd apologize properly if it would help, but he still won't budge. He just keeps bringing up divorce. I've tried rallying our mutual friends, my friends, his friends, even both of our families to back me up, but instead of supporting me, they're all siding with him. Everyone keeps saying this is my fault, that I'm refusing to take responsibility, that I'm the one who destroyed the marriage. But that's not true. I am taking responsibility. I'm just not going to take full responsibility because it's not entirely my fault. Danny has his own part in this too. I mean, if he had been more attentive, if he had kept the spark alive in our marriage, I wouldn't have needed to seek attention elsewhere. I'm just so tired of this. I just want to fix things and move on. Danny has been gone for weeks now and the bills are piling up. Who's supposed to handle all of that? Me? Honestly, it's infuriating. All I want is for us to work this out and go back to the way things were. Is that really too much to ask? Update. Well, hi there. It's strange, isn't it? Despite all the hate, I keep coming back here to post. Maybe it's because no matter how brutal the comments get, it's still easier to deal with than hearing someone in real life drone on and on about how everything is my fault. At least here I can vent. I can rant. And I can scroll past the hate instead of having to nod along while someone berates me to my face. I know people say social media is toxic, and you shouldn't read the comments if you know they'll hurt you. And yet, no matter how much I tell myself not to, I still end up reading them. It's addictive in a twisted way. But still, it's better than the alternative. So yeah, here I am again, back with another update. Funny how some of you, the same people who tore me apart in the comments, have been DMing me, asking for updates. Ironic, isn't it? But whatever. You want updates? Here's your update. I'm starting to realize something, and it's not easy for me to admit. Maybe, just maybe, I might be at fault here. Okay, fine. I am at fault. This is all my fault. Danny, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please come back home so we can be a family again. I apologize for everything I've done. I see now just how serious this is. This isn't some joke. My life is falling apart before my eyes, and if I don't act fast, it'll be too late. Remember that meeting with HR I mentioned in my last post? The one I was so worried about? Yeah, it didn't go well. Not at all. HR came down hard on me. It felt like they were just looking for a reason to fire me, and guess what? They did. I got fired. Honestly, I had already been thinking about quitting anyway. The work environment had turned so hostile after everything happened. People were avoiding me, whispering behind my back, treating me like some kind of plague. It was unbearable. Still, getting fired was a slap in the face. And to make it worse, they gave me the bare minimum severance. Now I'm unemployed. I haven't even started job hunting yet, and I have no idea where to begin. The bills are piling up and I can't keep up. The rent is overdue, and Danny, who used to handle all of that, hasn't lifted a finger to help since he moved out. Everything's on me now and I'm drowning. And as if that wasn't bad enough, I got served. Divorce papers. That was the moment it really hit me. Danny wasn't bluffing. He wasn't just angry or trying to scare me. He really wants a divorce. Seeing those papers was like a cold slap of reality. It finally made me realize how much I messed up. I started putting myself in Danny's shoes, and for the first time, I understood why he's so angry. I've been selfish. I've hurt him deeply, and he has every right to feel betrayed. So I did the only thing I could think of. I reached out to him. I apologized. I poured my heart out. But it didn't matter. Danny said he'd found my original post, the one where I tried to explain things, and that reading it made him sick. He told me the things I said were disgusting, that it made him realize he didn't even know me, that he didn't recognize the narcissistic person he had married. Hearing that from him, it stung. It hurt more than I can put into words. I've been trying to show him that I want to fix things, that I'm willing to change, but he won't listen. He's done. Danny, if you're reading this, and I hope you are, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know I've said it before, but I truly mean it. Please just give me one more chance. Let me show you that I can change, that we can fix this. I miss you. I miss our family. I don't want this to be the end. Please. Update. Hello, Reddit? Wow, it's been a while. I guess shame kept me away from updating for so long. This update is overdue. Long overdue. But I just couldn't bring myself to write it. I was ashamed. Actually, I am ashamed. Mostly because so many of Reddit's predictions came true, and I didn't want to come back here to confirm that you were all right. But something's been bugging me to write this, like it's the last thing I need to do, as if I owe it to you. Plus, the DMs kept coming, people asking for updates. So here I am, finally. The divorce? Yeah, it's finalized. As I'm sure many of you expected, I lost. I lost everything. If it weren't for the fact that I've been jobless and was earning far less during the marriage, I'd probably have been ordered to pay alimony too. Danny got full custody of our child, which wasn't a surprise either. I had cheated, plus he easily proved he'd always been the more present and stable parent in our marriage. That stung. No, it crushed me, and I was granted visitation rights. And even that feels like a formality because our kid clearly doesn't enjoy being around me. He's so much closer to Danny. It's like I'm just this person he's forced to visit a couple of times a month. The way he looks at me now, so distant, it hurts in ways I can't even explain. Danny, he's done with me. Completely. After the divorce was finalized, he came back to move out the rest of his stuff. He refuses to engage in any personal conversations with me and only communicates about our child. He's turned down every attempt I've made to fix things or even just talk. He told me that if I don't stop trying to reach out for anything unrelated to co-parenting, he'll block me and move our communication to one of those apps specifically for divorced parents. I've stopped now. I don't have a choice. Finding a job hasn't been easy either. I thought it would be, but I was wrong. So wrong. I still don't have a stable job and barely make enough to survive. I had to move out of our apartment, the one Danny and I shared, into a much smaller place. And even that tiny apartment is a struggle to afford. The bills, the rent, everything feels impossible. As for my life in general, it's a mess. After everything happened, I spiraled. I'll admit it now, I got involved with drugs and alcohol. It got bad enough that I had to go to rehab. I'm clean from drugs now, thankfully, but I did relapse with alcohol. I'm still fighting that battle every day. It's not easy, and the shame of relapsing makes it even harder. But I'm trying. My social life? That's gone too. Friends, family, they all took Danny's side. At the time, I was furious and bitter about it. Now I don't even blame them. He's thriving, and I'm just surviving. My relationships with everyone, friends, family, even acquaintances, fell apart. Danny, meanwhile, is doing great. He recently got a promotion, paid off his house, and is living a comfortable, happy life. Seeing him thrive while I'm struggling to make rent on my shoebox apartment is a constant reminder of how much I messed up. I've even tried asking him for help financially, but he shut that down immediately. He told me his responsibility is to our child, not to me, and I can't argue with that. As for Phil, please stop asking me about him. I haven't heard from him in ages. After he stopped coming to work, he disappeared. I tried reaching out to him multiple times, but I got nothing. So no, I don't know where he is or what he's doing, and frankly, I'm done trying to find out. So, yeah, that's the update. It's not a happy one, but it's the truth. I've hit rock bottom, and I guess this post is my way of trying to face it. Maybe putting it all out there will help me start picking up the pieces. For those who messaged me asking for updates, I hope this satisfies your curiosity. And for everyone else, well, here it is. Make of it what you will.